Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait.
The roster is set. Mostly time to start looking ahead to the Bills on Monday Night Football in less than 2 weeks. The 2023 Jets season is almost here. Thanks for checking out the Can't Wait podcast. Tim McMaster here along with Zack Rosenblatt, our Jets reporter at The Athletic. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us the thumbs up, spread the word, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us, same thing. Give us a 5-star review and check out the video if you haven't. Sometimes it's fun to see our faces. Zack, you were at practice today, and because the Jets haven't actually officially announced the roster at this point, I know you're out there with your notebook basically doing math, and I can't even imagine what your notepad looks like, drawing lines, and this guy's here and that guy's here. Where's this guy?
It's like that scene in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie Day has like all the stuff all up. Yeah.
Exactly. But you did predictions for the 53-man roster, and you've told me that there was 55 men at practice today. So we can't do a direct comparison because of those two mystery roster spots that are out there. But how are you feeling about the predictions at this point?
You know, I won that. It appears that, I mean, again, we're going to say this and then watch, to our luck, they'll turn around and cut these guys that I'm going to bring up. But so they are at 55 based on who we saw at practice. So they'll have to get down to 53. They can do some chicanery where they cut a veteran and then bring him back a couple of days from now after they put Carter Warren on injured reserve or whatever. But Kenny Yeboah I had on my final 53. Xavier Gipson. I didn't wind up doing Nick Bodden, so I guess I could still technically be right if they cut Bodden and then they just bring him back because he's a vested veteran, so he won't hit waivers. Trying to see, is there any other ones I can celebrate? I mean, Ashton Davis made it, but that was kind of obvious by the end.
Yeah,
and I got Trey Dean wrong. I got Malik Taylor wrong. I think those were it in terms of the guys I had on there that didn't make it. So I think I did pretty well, all things considered. I have to compare and contrast once the official thing comes out. And then, it should always be a reminder that it's important to call it the initial 53 because it changes quite a bit. They could still claim guys on waivers, which we won't find out till tomorrow. They don't need, the official roster technically hasn't come out as of this recording. By the time some people listen to this, it will have. So, but yeah, I'm sure you have some questions about surprises and stuff. But yeah, my initial, I think it generally, there was not any shocking things. And I think, last year we had Jason Pinnock was the shocker because, he's starting for the Giants now. And I thought he was one of the, every year there's usually a roster lock that doesn't make it. I don't think there was a single lock that didn't make it this year. So, yeah, so I think maybe that says something about just the quality of the roster. And I don't think they'll have as many guys get claimed as they did last year, but I think they will have some, and we can get into that. But yeah, I think Jets fans should feel pretty good about this roster, I would say.
Yeah, and I think we always mention this time of year that these are, we talk about cuts and who made it, and we throw names out there, but these are lives, right? These are these guys' lives and their, their careers and what they're doing. So respect for the guys that do get cut, and hopefully they find homes as well, and through this whole thing. So let's go, I guess, position by position a little bit. We're not going to go through the whole roster, but
we can go quickly on some positions.
Yeah, you started quarterback. The big question was, do they keep a third quarterback or not? The answer right now, no. So Tim Boyle out, but he'll probably be back in the practice squad, right?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. They do have, you say the question, it was a question because of the whole emergency third quarterback rule. If you look around the league, I think there's been more teams that have been cutting the third quarterback than I expected, actually. I feel like the idea is more, I feel like that emergency quarterback thing is probably more served for the playoffs. They don't want that thing to happen with the 49ers last year. It's pretty worst case scenario if you lose two quarterbacks in one game. And I don't think it happens that often. It does happen in the Jets to their
And you're probably going to lose that game anyway.
Yeah, and you're probably toast anyway at that point. So, you have to decide, do you want Tim Boyle on the 53 or do you want to just, stick it out and put him on the practice squad? He can still help there and be a part of the team. And so I think that's probably where they leaned. I'm sure that was a decision they thought about, but ultimately you'd rather keep somebody like a Xavier Gipson, Kenny Yeboah, or, guys who maybe they were worried would get claimed. You keep them and you get past Tim Boyle through. And then if you need to call them up, you have the two practice squad call-ups, and then you could sign him to the active roster. He has to be on the 53 to be the emergency third, which is a key point. So it's technically still possible. He's a veteran. He won't hit waivers, even if he did. Nobody's claiming him. So they could bring him back in a few days in theory. But yeah, I'd say practice squad for Tim Boyle.
Let's jump to receiver next, because terrible hosting job by me. I forgot to tease at the top that we actually have an interview with Garrett Wilson and also Sauce Gardner coming up later in the podcast. So tune in for those, keep it on here for a little bit. We'll go short discussion so we can get to that stuff, but good discussions by Zach sitting down with those guys this week. So at the receiver position, Wilson, Lazard, Cobb, Hardman, obviously the no-brainers. Brownlee and Gibson, we thought probably were in good shape. Irv Charles is interesting, just because that's a lot of receivers, Zach.
Yes, 7 receivers was when I walked out there and I saw Irv Charles, Xavier Gibson, and Brownlee all standing next to each other. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And Al Nazar was practicing. So yeah,
but it makes you wonder if when you say 55 and they have to get to 53, if that's one of them.
That's where the alarm bells are sounded. That's where their alarm bells are sounded a little bit.
Yeah.
Out of those 3, like, who's the most likely to get, like, if they were to cut somebody between now and 4 p.m., I'd say probably Charles. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I did see McCole Hardman doing some punt returns alongside Xavier Gibson, and Hardman hadn't really been doing it as much as you had thought. So if they view Hardman as their returner, maybe they don't keep Gibson on the roster. I'm not sure, but he did show some flashes. I thought that was worth keeping around. Brownlee, they clearly liked what they saw potential-wise. I think he'd be the most likely to get claimed out of that trio. Irv Charles does have a role in special teams. He's the biggest of those 3. They need a backup for Alan Lazard. I wouldn't say Charles necessarily stood out in camp. I think he got most of his reps with Zach Wilson. But I know this coaching staff is really fond of him. So
I feel like we talked about him less than anyone.
Yeah, that was why it maybe felt like more. I think his special teams role probably helps him. But he seems like a guy you could keep on the practice squad like they did last year and call him up on game day if you need him for special teams. So, like, in terms of whose job is the least secure out of that group, I'd say probably his. But, maybe they're waiting to see if Alan Lazard is good to go in week 1. And then once they're positive that he's good to go, they can cut Irv Charles. But, 7 receivers was – if you're going to say, like, what was the biggest surprise, I'd say that was the thing. Walking out on the practice field and seeing all those guys still there was surprising to me.
All right, running backs, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Izzy, and then Nick Bawden for now, and we'll see, but eventually he's going to be there, you'd think. Bam Knight. Obviously, Bam Knight's a guy that last year had kind of his moment on the field for this team when called into action for one big week, and then less impressive after that. And I wonder how much that one game and that performance is going to help him find a home now that he's been cut.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I think he's an NFL running back. He did slow down as the season went on, and I think the run blocking wasn't great, but he also, I think he is limited in what he can do, but he does have some explosiveness. He has some juice to him. You saw it in practice. He didn't struggle a bit in the preseason, but I don't know if I necessarily think he gets claimed. I don't think running backs, I think people kind of expect running backs to get claimed every year because running backs are the biggest names and everybody kind of knows who they are. But a lot of times those guys get through. So maybe he doesn't get claimed on waivers, but I think he maybe would have an opportunity on a 53 somewhere. If not, the Jets will happily bring him back on the practice squad. He's a valuable guy to keep down there and in case an injury happens or whatever, especially with, Breece and Dalvin both working their way back into things. So it wasn't a surprise that Knight was cut. I think it was more of a surprise as preseason progress that it wasn't really a competition between him and Carter, but ultimately expected Knight to go, and he did.
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, 2 weeks ago after when he was the one in the game and Carter wasn't suiting up. All right, switching to defense, and the biggest surprise probably safety, right? Whitehead, Adams, Adrian Amos, Ashton Davis, who had a great, end of preseason games. He really showed himself. But Trey Dean cut.
Yeah, I think that was the one that – there's always one that makes fans mad every year. And I think Dean was the one that fans are the most mad about. I had him on my 53, like I mentioned. I thought he showed enough to make the team. From what I'm told, they very much like to bring him back in the practice squad. He did show a little bit in the preseason, like enough that maybe a team claims him. I think he's going to be one to keep an eye on for that. If he gets through, they'll bring him back for sure. Ultimately, the Ashton Davis lives on. I know some fans are still mad about that, but this coaching staff loves Ashton. He's very athletic. He does his job. He's good on special teams. And so ultimately Ashton won that job over him. Adrian Amos wound up sticking around. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a surprise cut. He was kind of who I had my eye on. But yeah, so the Jets clearly looked at Trey Adams and didn't think that they necessarily needed to keep him on the initial roster. So he's I get why fans are upset because it's like the fun, exciting young safety. And I think everybody thought maybe he could be the Tony Adams of next year. You know how Tony Adams made the team last year and then this year became what he is now, which feels like he could have a huge year just based on everybody talks about him around here. So I'm curious to see if Trey Dean gets claimed. But, if you're just like going to go through the roster and say like what's like one thing that I absolutely would change, I would have kept him probably. But ultimately, I don't like this isn't going to move the needle in either direction. They'll be fine without Trey Dean if he doesn't make the team ultimately.
Cornerback Bryce Hall sneaks through. I feel like he's been on that edge for a while now. After obviously as a rookie year, he was a starter and all of that. But from last year with the additions they made, he's down the bottom of that roster, but surviving.
Who was that? Sorry, I get distracted by a tweet.
Bryce Hall.
Bryce Hall. That's what I thought you said. That's what I thought.
Hope it wasn't a Connor Hughes tweet.
Oh no, I would never look at those purposely. Bryce Hall keeps living. He's a guy that I think would get claimed if he was cut. I'm curious to see if his roster spot is secure enough that Brendan Eccles is suspended week 1. So after you get through week 1, they're gonna have to activate Brandon Eccles, and that'll take a spot. And so does Bryce Hall really have a place on this team at that point? Maybe they try and trade him between now and then. But I wasn't surprised any made, especially once Jimmy Moreland went on IR and his season ended. There wasn't really competition for Bryce Hall there. So they need him for week 1. They need that depth. I think he's an NFL cornerback. I know fans have kind of soured on him, but I think he's an NFL corner. And I'm curious to see if he sticks around after the first week. I think that's like the big question roster-wise.
All right, we didn't talk about tight end where Kenny Yeboah gets through and Zach Kuntz cut, which judging by the chat and just overall, a little surprise there.
I wasn't personally surprised. I think fans got attracted by like the idea. The Zach Kuntz is very much like you like the idea of him more than you actually like him. And there's like a line in the movie Role Models where he's like, I like the idea of Coke more than I actually like it or whatever. And I think that's what it is with Kuntz. Like he's 6'8". He's as athletic as any tight end that's ever come into the draft. And so like in theory that there's some raw potential there, but remember a few things. Number one, he fell all the way to the 7th round for a reason, like pretty far in the 7th round. He did not have a lot of production at Penn State before he transferred. And then he went to Old Dominion where he played a little better against lesser competition. And he's had some injury stuff. He's a little older as a prospect and he just did not show anything in camp or preseason. Like he's a very raw player. I think the team, took a flyer on him to see if he could live up to his like stature as an athlete and his size, but he just did not show anything. And Kenny Yeboah is on the flip side. He's a guy this coaching staff really, really likes. I've heard Ron Middleton is as high on him as anybody in that room. He's young. He has a role on special teams. He is banged up. He has a hamstring injury. He's one of those that maybe he makes the initial and then they put him on IR or something like that. I did see him working off to the side. So they're clearly not putting him on season ending IR. Otherwise we wouldn't seen him there, I don't think. But I predicted Kenny Yeboah because I'd heard how much that coaching staff likes him. And it's kind of like the Ashton Davis thing, even though he doesn't have the draft pick pedigree, the coaching staff loves him in special teams kind of situation. So that's why Kuntz is gone. I don't think he'll get claimed. Maybe somebody will be tantalized by that talent, but they weren't in the draft and they had many chances to draft him. So I think Kuntz will wind up being on the practice squad as well.
All right. You mentioned like the IR, and it's something we haven't talked that much about because as you look with the season less than 2 weeks away, this team's getting healthy. Carl Lawson is back. Izzy is back. Dalvin Cook practiced. Lazard is practicing again. This team, I mean, the first thing about training camp, right, is you want to get through training camp with your big stars healthy. And there was some nicks and bruises along the way. But for the most part, looks like this Jets team goes into week 1 full strength.
Yeah, I think a lot of good news came today. Carl Lawson was the main one I was worried about because he just had not practiced in a while. That back thing seemed like it was lingering. And Saleh, who's always optimistic, wouldn't even say if he thought he would be back for week 1. But he was back at practice today. They're probably going to ease him back in. I'm curious to see what that looks like. They do have this extra week helps for a guy like that. And the Jets are honestly kind of saved a little bit by this extra week because all these guys are healing up now. Yeah, Lazard was one, AC joint. Sometimes, depending on the severity, that can linger for a while. So it's good that he's back. Dwayne Brown's back practicing. Brees Hall, Dalvin Cook on the practice field. Brees and Dalvin are the ones I mostly have my eye on because, like I think we've talked about, I don't really worry about Dwayne Brown getting ready for the season. I just think he's a pro and he knows how to take care of himself. Lazard, not really worried about, but the Dalvin and Brees thing, I'm very interested in how that plays out because Dalvin didn't practice a single time all summer. Brees only just started. Neither of them have gotten hit since last year. Brees still even longer. So, like, what's that workload going to look like? How ready are they for week one? I think that's what we're going to find out of these next 2 weeks. Like, we don't watch the whole practice anymore, so I won't really have an answer to this. But, like, is Dalvin Cook participating in team drills? Will be an interesting thing behind the scenes at least. But I think they anticipate both guys being available for week one. I'm curious to see what that looks like and if they're able to run the ball as much as they would like. I think that's going to be maybe the biggest question going into that Bills game because I think the defense looks very, very good. Rodgers is set. Wilson is set. This receiver group should be healthy. All 7 receivers, and you have the tight ends and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know what the running game looks like if we don't know what Cook and Brees look like in week one.
Yeah. You hope that combined they can give you what one guy would give you, and then you come in with the other guys as well. One good thing heading into that week, though, is that Von Miller won't be on the other side of the football to close the gaps down. He's out for week one.
Yeah, he's staying on PUP list, which means he's going to miss. I forget how many weeks. I think 6 weeks or 4 weeks or something. I'm blanking. It's been a while since I've had Garrett Bernard Converse will be on PUP for the Jets, but so I should learn that. But yeah, Von Miller will be out. That's huge for the Jets, especially for an offensive line. That is the starting 5 is practicing for the first time together today, basically. Like all 5 of them out on the field together. So Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton makes life a little bit easier for them. They still do have some really good pass rushers. They just traded one of the Giants. So I think that's it's a good thing for the Jets. The Bills defense is still scary, but you feel a little bit better when Von Miller, all-time pass rusher, is not out there.
There was really nothing, just big picture here, and then we'll get to these interviews that we want to play. But when you look back on this training camp as a whole, it really just was good vibes from start to finish, right? There was never, there was all the attention to start and Aaron Rodgers and Hard Knocks. And obviously that's coming up again tonight with another episode, but there was never a controversial moment. There was never like any extended negativity. There was no like trade requests. I guess you had Corey Davis retire last week, but that was, that was more
that would be the most controversial thing, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, you're
crazy.
Right.
This is the Jets, right? This podcast is about the Jets, right, Zach?
Well, that's the thing. It's all relative though. Like we had a player retire and you're like, it's whatever. But like most teams, it's like, and it's like a guy who they're paying $10 million to. And you have the Sean Payton stuff and, this and that and this and that. There's been a bunch of like,
that's true. There was the Sean Payton.
But that wasn't that wasn't the Jets' fault though. Like either.
Right. That was Bronco.
But you're right. No. I mean, there's still time between now and week one for a trade request, but as of now, there has not been one. It seems like both the guys that requested trades last year are no longer in the building. They're both traded. So,
if you request a trade from the Jets, you'll get
eventually
it. Eventually, it may take a year, but
the irony of the Mims part of it is he might have had like a chance to really prove himself with all the injuries they dealt with in Corey Davis. Like he might have made the team.
Yeah, because he's the size guy,
and he did a good job with run blocking last year. Like he probably would have made it, and then someone like Irv Charles probably doesn't. But anyway, he got hurt in Detroit, so he's having a tough time in his career, unfortunately for Mimsy. But it's I'm happy that the season's finally here. Is what I'll say. And I kind of when I talked to Sauce, I forget if I asked Garrett this too, and I guess we can introduce this stuff in a second, I guess. But I was like, so Sauce, we've been, I've been talking to you obviously all off season. Like we've been asking you questions about expectations and this and that and Aaron Rodgers and all this stuff. Like how ready are you to just finally go out there and play football? And I feel the same way. I'm very ready to stop writing the same things and asking the same questions so we can actually just like have a game to be like, okay, this happened, now let's react to it.
Yeah, let's pick things apart. All right, you want to set up? We'll start with Sauce since you were just talking about him. You want to set this interview up?
Yeah, if you guys remember, I did this last year with Sauce, and we had the interview on here. He's promoting his sauce. It's back again with Buffalo Wild Wings. It's always fun chatting with him. That chat was, I think, it was a little less than 10 minutes. One thing with these, when you get these set up through, the publicist or whatever, they do it with the understanding that you're going to ask them a couple questions about the thing they're promoting, so that winds up cutting into the time you have with them. But I understand why. Like, that's the reason why I'm talking to them. But anyway, so Sauce had the Buffalo Wild Wings thing again. He had some, I haven't seen the video yet, but he had something where he pretended to be an employee at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he said he pretended his name was DeRoy Gardner, like defensive rookie of the year. And he was like I guess he was like going up to people and eating their wings off their plate, or just being like, just doing one of those classic, like they do that with the athletes, or they have them work at the team store or whatever. And then Garrett, I keep forgetting what the company, Dr. Teal's, it's a wellness brand that offers a range of products with restorative, I think it's like bath salts or something like that. Anyway, that's what Garrett was promoting. It was a great, like, both those guys. I think about this a lot every time we get to talk to them, but they're both very media friendly, and they're very media savvy, and they're very like well-spoken and thoughtful. It's like really refreshing talking to those guys. And I'll say, I asked Garrett at the end of the interview, it's worth listening all the way to the end. I finally asked him about his dog, as I've alluded to on here, how he's always talking about how he can't talk because he's going to talk about his dog. I think he was happiest to talk about that after like peppering him with questions about like Aaron Rodgers and the season and expectations and all that crap. He was very happy to talk about his pup. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm excited I got to talk to these guys, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
We are a dog-friendly podcast, and I will note that you were wearing a different hat right now and in both of these interviews.
That's so, right. They were filmed on different days and at different times.
Without further ado, we'll start with Sauce, and then we'll move on to Garrett Wilson with these sit-down interviews.
So tell me what the last year's been like being, partnered with Buffalo Wild Wings, and that you're getting to do your sauce thing again.
Man, it's been great. Being able to have this partnership with Buffalo Wild Wings, it's been very fun, creative. I'm just happy the sauce is back, for this football season and postseason. Speaking of fun and creative, I had I went undercover as a Buffalo Wild Wings waiter, that go by the name of D-Roy. Why the D-Roy was there, not say too much about that. But yeah, man, it was just a great opportunity. I had a lot of fun, doing that and just trolling customers, eating food off they place and doing all type of troll stuff like that, pouring my sauce all over people's wings. And, I was quite surprised they wasn't getting angry, because I know I probably would have. But yeah, man, it was a great opportunity, and I appreciate them for that.
Is the sauce the same as it was last year? Any changes to it?
Yeah, it's gonna be the same. Not gonna be no changes.
Gotcha. I know Aaron Rodgers, he has a pretty strict diet, but are you gonna get him to try it?
Yeah, I might get him to try it. I don't know why I haven't did that yet. Give him a try. I definitely will.
For sure, man. I remember in the off season you had a Sports Illustrated cover come out where you had your hands all dipped in sauce and stuff. I was curious, what was the shooting the photo of that like? Did they just tell you to like stick your hands in sauce and then pull it out? Like what was going on there?
Yeah, I think they put like a graphic on it. I mean, what is it called? A filter. And they put like a filter in it, because the original how it originally looked and how it came out looking on the Sports Illustrated cover is totally different.
Yeah, you got a lot. I know you got a lot of people making fun of it on Twitter after that, right?
Man, it's all good though. It's all good. I think that died down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how much, we I obviously talked to you a lot just from covering the team, but you've been getting asked about expectations for the season and how good this defense can be and all that stuff. Like how much are you looking forward to just putting that all finally behind you and going out there on September 11th and finally showing what you guys can do?
Can't wait. September 11th, that's the day. I don't need to answer no more questions. The game gonna speak for itself. So, I'm looking forward to that. Never go out there and compete, and go out there and go to war with my brothers.
Tell me why you think you guys have the best cornerback room in the NFL.
And we have fun. First and foremost, we have a lot of fun. I'm not saying no other corner rooms do, because I definitely know Philly. I know they having fun in there, just being able to have knowing like
Slay,
a Vontae Maddox, Slay, I know they have a lot of fun in there too. You know, Bradbury. But yeah, I can only speak for us, for real. We have a lot of fun, you know, and we just trying to go out there and compete, you know, dominate every time we step on the field, you know, and just get the ball, get them takeaways. I feel like we do it at a high level. So
how much has it made your group in particular better going against Aaron every day? I know we asked you before training camp about it, but then actually doing it, like how much better do you guys get going against him every day?
and it's been great. Like we play in the zone, you need to be in your zone. You ain't in your zone, he gonna get the ball there.
Yeah.
Like it's little stuff like that, like him being able to throw like 40-yard dots, like no air under the ball, little stuff like that makes it a huge deal, you know, and makes him hard to deal with. I mean, it's been great, you know, level of competition. He's a hard quarterback to intercept. You know, I feel like that just makes it easier in the game, you know, makes us be where we have to be in zone, have good eyes when it comes to man. You know what I mean? Because looking back at the quarterback, he just make those impossible throws possible. You know, so it's been tough, but you know, it's only been making us better.
Yeah, I was talking to Garrett. You know, a lot people talk a lot about how Aaron does like those hand signals at the line, and he's constantly changing his cadence and just doing everything he can to confuse the defense. So I'm curious from like a defensive player's perspective, like how hard is it to defend a quarterback that is just constantly doing that at the line? And you kind of like, I guess you probably just have to focus on what's in front of you, but like a quarterback like that, like I imagine that adds an extra challenge, right, for a defense.
No, I do. Like I remember when I seen the first Hard Knocks episode, and they got Garrett beat me on a slant. And it's like, that was literally the play right after I broke up the fade. And people don't understand, like, they did hurry up offense. And it's like, I didn't even know it was hurry up. Because Garrett, I'm looking at Garrett, and Garrett getting the line slow, like he just ran back. But the whole time, the center got his hand on the ball. He snapped the ball and step out. Like, little stuff like that, it just teaches me always stay aware, you know, because that wasn't really happening last year. You know what I mean? Because they used to always be in the huddle more times than not. But him being able to just take over the offense, make them checks, you know, because he read the defense and just he don't got to be a robot. Like he don't have to run a play that's called. If he running a play that's called, he could still make his own adjustments if he know what defense, you know, they in, because the offense coordinator don't know what defense that the team gonna be in, you know, going into that play. He got to hurry up and get a call, you know. So yeah, it's been great just being able to have a veteran quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
What was the process like of coming up with your guys' secret handshake?
I don't even remember. I don't remember when it started. I just know he came up with it. Like it was cool though. I liked it. But that's something he came up with.
To go on.
We have fun with it. I see it's gotten a lot of attention, you know, from the media, from other athletes that be doing it. You know, yeah.
It's funny. I know guys, both Aaron and guys around the team have talked about how he like makes an effort to have lunch with like everybody on the team every day because he just wants to get everybody. Like, is that what you've seen? Have you seen him just like sitting with somebody else when you guys go into the cafeteria every day?
Oh yeah, most definitely. That's one thing that he said. It was before one of the preseason games. He said, like, from now on, like, challenge yourself to just get to know your teammates more. Like, every day, just sit at a different table with different teammates, you know, get to learn them even more and little stuff like that. And I'm just like, I was thinking, like, this is the thing about me. I'm one of those people, like, I observe, like, people and I figure people out, like, pretty fast. So, but you're not going to know. So, like, when he said it, I'm like, he really, like, he been in the league for a minute, Hall of Famer. He didn't have to say that, and he don't have to do a lot of the things that he do. You know, he already established he been doing this for a long time. The fact that, you know, he do it, it's like he set a different standard. If he doing it, there's no reason that everybody else ain't doing it. You know what I mean? But it's not the same if it's reversed. Like, if other people was doing it, he wouldn't necessarily have to do it. You know what I mean? Because he been in the league for a minute. So like doing a lot of these things, you know, it just set a different standard, set a new standard.
For sure. They said one more question. So I just wanted to ask you about one of your draft classmates, because he fascinates me. It's Michael Clemens. You know, anytime he's at the podium, he's this intense, you know how he's this intense dude. He only says a few words, and it seems like he's that intense on game day. I'm just curious what he's like when you guys are hanging out behind the scenes. Like, is he as intense as he acts? And I know some people say he's secretly one of the funniest guys on the team. What's he like
I
from your
mean,
perspective?
it's not like he acting, that's him,
Yeah.
but that's not just him. That's not all he know. He know how to joke around. You know what I mean? He know how to have fun. He into music. He like music, listen to music. Like he one of those, he gotta bring great energy, great positive energy, to the team. Everybody funny in their own way. That's one of the ways that he funny as well. But that don't mean like he joking all the time though. He a great teammate. I trained with him in the draft process, during the draft process. And yeah, great guy to have.
Awesome. All right, man. Thanks, Sauce. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Ask first why you decided to partner with Dr. Teals and how long you've been using them for.
Yeah, man. So Dr. Teals is something that I've been using since I was in like 7th grade. And yeah, my mom used them, and it's kind of one of those things where I was stealing hers, and then I ended up, getting my own, and now I'm, blessed to be working with them. But yeah, for me, every time I'm not on the field, it's always how can I be, at my best when I am on the field, and how can I be, recover just to be able to put out what I want to put out when I am on the field. So Dr. Teals helps me get there. It's a vital part of my routine. It's something that, I feel like I need. And yeah, like I said, I'm just so honored to be, working with them now and have, access to as much as I need, because I really truly do need it all. So yeah.
I mean, kind of jumping off that, like how, you're going into your 2nd year now. How would you say the Garrett Wilson of like right now is different than the one that was going into the season last year, week 1?
Yeah, just seeing it for a year is like, it's like immeasurable, but it's super valuable to like just seeing the game for a year and then playing in it, being able to watch the film from last season. I feel like I've just seen the game different just because of the year under the belt, but also just with my body. I feel like I'm just faster this year. So for me, I lost probably too much body fat to the point where they were like, you need to gain more, but I feel better. I feel super good. And my weight is up though. So it's, it's one of those things where I wanted to, just put on all the weight I could this off season. And for me, it doesn't sound like much, but it's, it's a lot. Like I have to really, really lock in to put on the weight I want. And
For the grind and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, now seeing it come to fruition and being out on the field, I feel stronger. I feel like I'm seeing the game better. And yeah.
And one thing I noticed in practice with you dating back to last year is how mad you get at yourself if you like have a drop or you make a mistake. Like, do you ever get coaches telling you to ease up on yourself when you're out there? Because I definitely saw times last year you like stormed off like, I missed that ball.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's one thing. The coaches know that no one's harder on me than I am. So I mean, because of that, they always kind of don't have to say too much to me. And with that said, though, they do still make sure I'm not beating myself up and making sure that I'm bouncing back so that it's not affecting my game, or that I can, still make the next play, because that's always, the most important one. And I feel like, also in that sense, I'm better with that this year. I feel like I'm better with that. It's something I'm always working on because I am a competitor and I love the game. And sometimes that comes out naturally, but yeah, man, most of the time it doesn't help. So, alive in the moment, it's okay to reflect, but, I feel like I'm doing better with just moving on from that stuff and taking the next step.
Yeah. You've probably been asked every version of questions about Aaron Rodgers and your relationship with him by now, but I know one thing a lot of the guys who played with him in like Green Bay used to talk about was how like young receivers would sometimes struggle with his hand signals and how much he was changing stuff at the line. And like the flip side of that is guys who like really got it were the ones that were like really putting up numbers and like was flowing in the offense. Like what's that process been like, kind of learning that aspect of playing with Aaron for you? And, I know he throws stuff at you in warm-ups and like he's always quizzing you guys, but like what's that process been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's like every day is like a new challenge. It truly elevates, the whole receiver room. It makes us lock in on our details, take notes of everything, be able to take the meeting room right to the field and execute it. But but yeah, there's definitely a learning curve with it though. So for me, it's just keeping my eyes on him and then realizing when he's going to snap and getting used to his rhythm and his cadence, and so that I'm not missing one of these signals just because I'm so locked in on the ball, that type of thing. And I got to start doing it now. I had to start doing it a few months ago, honestly, so that I wouldn't. And now I'm good with it, but so that I can do it in the game, because in the game it's only going to be harder. It's only going to be louder. And I mean, if we can truly buy in and do it the right way, which is why it's great to have guys like Cobb and Allen and Malik to translate these things. But if we can truly do it the right way, man, it makes us really hard to stop. And Aaron sees the game in a really natural, pure way, like playing in the backyard, which is awesome for, the receivers, for really everyone that plays with him. And it makes it really fun, and it just makes sense. So, yeah, man, it's just me locking in on those details and making sure that I'm picking, Aaron's brain every time I can.
I mean, and you kind of said this, but how much is the reward at the end of like learning all that stuff? That I guess the reward at the end of it is that the defense kind of doesn't really know ever what he's trying to do at the line, right? You're like confused.
Exactly. The reward is always, being in the ideal look against whatever look we're getting from the defense, So, if you can really buy in on that, you won't have a lot of negative plays or bad plays or wasted plays. But, on the contrary, if you don't, then you can have, throwaways and, just look out of whack. So you got to really, really lock in on that stuff for sure.
Aaron mentioned the other day that he's trying to, with you specifically, he's trying to give you like an extra tick. So because he thinks if he gives you like even just an extra second, like you'll get open. Like, and he said he used to do that with Devontae too. Like when you hear him talking about you in that way, like how special is it that you've already like kind of built that bond up?
I mean, that's truly special. That is truly special to even be mentioned with Devontae. And I know, Aaron thinks highly of me, and I think the same of him. And it all comes from, the way we both go about our business and the fact that we have a common goal in mind. And we respect each other, and I mean, I'm just, he knows how happy I am to be playing with him. So it is awesome, man. But for me, it's like, all right, and then, I got to go prove, who I am every week. I got to go, make every play I can for this guy. And at the end of the day, man, like I said, we both have the same goal in mind. So, I feel like, that stuff is really cool, but we're going to put in the work to make it, real.
I know Sauce went to the Knicks game with him. Have you hung out with him outside of the facility yet?
Yeah, I have a few times. So we didn't do a Knicks game, nothing too public, crazy like that. But
no cameras there for you.
Exactly. I had some fun a few times.
Nice. That's awesome. So one thing, Sauce, you obviously came in together with him. He talks a lot about how when he thinks about his goals, he thinks about the end first. He's like, I think about how at the end of my career, I want people to think of me like this, and make the Hall of Fame and all that stuff, while still focusing on the day-to-day. But like, do you kind of think like that too? Like, do you think about how you want people to remember you and at the end of your career kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, maybe not like actively.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Honestly, I really don't. I kind of just try and go about this thing as a day by day, realizing how blessed I am to be in the position I am. And I feel like if I do think about that, that'll lead to me putting in the work and making sure I'm doing the right things to keep my life that way. And, God blessed me with the talent, and now it's about, what can I do with it to make it last as long as possible, and to influence as many people's lives, or, whatever it is with it. And I feel like if I do that and keep that in mind, each and every day, it'll all take care of itself, man. So, I like to think of myself as someone who's, internally driven, and that it's, I wake up and feeling that way, wake up feeling like I got to go. And that's how I've always been. So I like to think it'll stay that way,
Yeah. And last year, obviously you, Sauce, and Breeze got a lot of attention. I feel like it led to people maybe forgetting that Jermaine Johnson was also a first round pick with you guys. And I mean, I saw in camp how dominant he was. You saw how he was too, but like as a guy who was in his draft class with him, like what do you think about people sleeping on that kid? Cause it seems like he's just ready to go off this year.
Yeah, man, they're gonna find out soon. There's a lot of beauty in people sleeping on, certain people. It's cool. You can get a chip on your shoulder, and hopefully it stays with you for the rest of your career. But yeah, man, it's cool. You got to embrace that, and I know Jermaine has, and he's ready to go. Like you said, man, he's a great player, and I feel like the whole world will know, after this season for sure.
And then one more draft classmate. What is Michael Clemens like? Because he fascinates me because we see him at the podium and he got that deep voice. He only says a few words and he's so intense. It seems like all the time. I'm just curious, like what he's like when you guys are seeing him in the locker room and stuff.
Yeah, he is like that though. He is like that for real. But me coming in with them and all the rookies, we all know we all know him so well and know kind of his I don't know, just how to get him, man. But that is truly him, man. He's being natural, like for real. That's him. Like I said, we just know his little.
Yeah.
Get him. I don't know. He's hilarious, bro. He's actually hilarious. I love him.
Aaron Whitecotton said he's like a good storyteller, sneakily too. Like he's good at telling stories.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. He is.
And all right, one more for you, a little lighter question. So I've told people about this when they've asked me about you. When the reporters are in the locker room and we go up to you to like talk to you, you almost always are willing to talk to us. And the only time I say that you're not is you say I got to get home and walk my dog, which I think is the most relatable thing you ever say to us because I relate to that. But so I just was curious if you can tell me about your dog name, what kind of pup it is when you got him and all that.
So yeah, his name is Carmelo. I got him during COVID. Whenever we thought, February 14th. I got him on Valentine's Day, COVID year. I think that was 2021. Yeah. 2021. And we didn't think we were having a season at the time, as far as, so I was like, I'm gonna have a lot of time on my hand as far as Ohio State. And I got him and he's a Shiba Inu, drove about an hour away. And
to pick him up?
Pick him up on what's it called? February 14th. And Zach Harrison and Ronnie Hickman came with me to go pick him up. It was kind of like we're going to get this dog, my dog, but even though we all stayed together, so they were coming with me. And yeah, man, he's been a joy, bro. He's truly my entertainment. Like he's the best, bro. He's my dog. Did you drive, bro? Huh?
So did you drive with him from Ohio when you moved to New Jersey?
Yeah, I had to drive up from Ohio to Jersey for the first time so I could bring him, and he was perfect, bro. He sat back there. He was good. I mean, I'm sure it sucked, but great dog, man. He's an energy ball, but he's great.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was a great chat with you, of course.
Of course, I appreciate you, Zach. Good.
All right, that'll do it. So that was Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson sitting down and chatting a little bit over Zoom with Zach. Zach has departed, but thanks for checking out another episode of the Can't Wait podcast. If you want to check out all the great writing at The Athletic, we have a great deal going right now. End of the summer, $1 a month for 12 months for new subscribers. Go to theathletic.com/can't wait to get that deal. One more week of one episode, and then we'll scale things up to 2 episodes a week during the season. So we'll be back with you next week with more. We have to figure out what we're doing for picks this year without Marissa doing the picks. Maybe she can do it from home. We'll see. But we got to figure out the picks. We'll have news on that next week and then heading forward. Thanks for joining us on the Can't Wait podcast.